Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Ian Huyett for Cornerstone in support of 1416. This is maybe the most modest, least ambitious bill in some ways that certainly I've testified on. It just says you can't de facto or indirectly ban pregnancy resource centers. Nonetheless, we think PRCs in New Hampshire could very quickly become vulnerable to the violations that are prohibited in this law. Representative Farrington mentioned he's concerned about what could happen under agencies in a future administration. I'm maybe less sanguine about our current state agencies. We believe that many of our state agencies are partisan and that there is a pattern of them getting far ahead of or acting contrary to state statute, unless there is a judicially enforceable statutory remedy like would be created by this bill. And then if there was a facially neutral state agency action targeting a PRC, we think whether we could get constitutional relief may be questionable. Certainly the First Circuit Court of Appeals is more likely than any other Circuit Court of Appeals to say controversial speech is harmful in some way that places it outside the scope of First Amendment protections. The only other thing I'll say is if someone, let's say, introduced a bill saying the state shall never compel anyone to attend church, I would think that bill was kind of silly and pointless, but we wouldn't show up here and oppose it because we have no intention of ever trying to compel anyone to attend church. I think the reason that the Medical Association, the ACLU, Planned Parenthood are here in opposition to this bill is that they would in fact like to use state agencies to go after PRCs. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions for this witness? Yes, Representative McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think the point that Ian just made at the end there is very compelling. To that point, I would like to ask you, to what extent have we seen that kind of action by those kinds of groups in other states?
Well, the biggest campaign has been in Massachusetts, and Representative Farrington mentioned it. And probably the kind of most directly First Amendment type enforcement action we've seen from Massachusetts is state agencies using open-ended investigations to cause financial strain to PRCs. So they're not coming right out and saying we're going to formally prohibit you from providing these services, but we're just going to cause you to incur costs by doing these open-ended investigations. And for that reason, we support the bill in its current form, but it might be a good idea to page 2, lines 5 through 6, after the word shall not, through and then onto the rest of the line on line 6 to remove those words. And that's because the injuries sought to be prevented on lines 7 through 29 really are the things that should give standing to a PRC to bring a lawsuit. And it could cause some confusion around standing if it seems like the injury conferring standing is the promulgation of a regulation instead of the injuries sought to be prevented on 7 through 29.